Military veterans charity, the Royal British Legion, have brought out a transgender poppy. No, it's not a poppy that identifies as a begonia. It's this one that's been taken over by the controversial Progress flag. You can wear it in honour of all the transgender soldiers who stormed the Normandy beaches in high heels and plastic wigs, apparently. Steven Spielberg left them out of Saving Private Ryan. I guess he must be transphobic or something. I bought this trans remembrance poppy from the RBL. This is a charity I support. It does sterling work raising money and respect for the military men and women, and now non-binary and 428 other genders, who give their lives to protect our country. Unfortunately, like every charity, they've been taken over by diversity, equity and inclusion. It's been reported that they pay £10,000 a year to be part of Stonewall's discredited Diversity Champions scheme. The Royal British Legion's diversity chief, Jennifer Dyer, is apparently on a salary of 80 grand. I mean, that's a lot of tins of coins. And this push for diversity means they now have this poppy that celebrates gender ideology. There's a misconception that this flag represents gay rights. Unfortunately, as the LGB acronym expanded to the current LGBTQIACAPGNGFN2SBA++, I'm not making that up, that's the genuine acronym now. It's been accused of pushing gay people out. Instead of representing sexualities, which are generally pretty unchangeable, it represents things such as child gender transitioning and men in women's sports, which has nothing to do with military men and women giving their lives to protect us. There are two black and brown stripes to represent ethnic minorities, even though the whole idea of the rainbow flag is it represents everyone, and the colour in the rainbow flag doesn't represent skin colours, unless you've done too much poppers and you turn purple. The flag also represents asexual people. These are people who don't feel sexual attraction, also known as a long-term relationship. The thing is, soldiers have always been encouraged to be asexual. Asexuals have never been discriminated against in the army. There's also pansexual, or someone who's sexually attracted to everything, which you probably would be after 6 months in the trenches. One of the stripes in the flag represents agender as well, which is a person who doesn't identify with any gender, so just a regular person then. And if they don't identify with a gender, why are you defining them by their gender identity? There's also affectogender, which is a gender affected by emotions, also known as a woman. And there's queer questioning, and I'm queer questioning who thought this badge was a good idea. The Pride Progress bit is bigger than the poppy. Can't we just have one thing that hasn't been taken over by massive trans rainbows? Gender identity wasn't a factor at the Battle of the Somme. People didn't announce their pronouns before they went over the top. They were too busy getting shot at to agonise over their gender identity. If you took the time to correct someone who misgendered you, the pause would mean you'd get taken out by a sniper, and your colleagues would probably cheer. There have always been gay men and women in the army, in the air force and in the navy, even when it was officially banned. And when we wear our poppies, it's for all of them too. Have there been that many trans people in the military? Well, the Ukraine war gives an insight into how seriously people take their gender identity when there's the risk of being shot at. When Russia invaded Ukraine, a rule was passed forcing men aged 18 to 60 to stay and fight. But many trans and non-binary people tried to leave, like this trans woman who was arrested while trying to escape. Organisations sprang up to help people like this escape, but they effectively created a loophole where any man can flee the war by saying that he's trans. And trans men, so people born female who identify as men, fled as well. Vice reported on someone called Rain Dove, who's helped hundreds of trans people flee the war, including Robert, a 31-year-old trans man who is living in Kharkiv in Ukraine. Vice says Robert's years on testosterone have led to him being able to pass like any other man, but his ID still says that he's female and uses his birth name. Rain Dove told Vice News, "We've had trans people get rejected at some borders, but everyone we've supported has eventually got out. If you're a trans man with female on your ID, prepare to be gaslit by the Ukrainian authorities. They will say, if you're really a man, then fight for your country." This is unfortunately a really common thing. Well, yeah, of course people are going to say this. When you transitioned, you told us you were now definitely a man, and we had to respect that and call you a man. We've had years of being told that trans men are men and trans women are women, and that's that. But these gender identities suddenly evaporate when something bad happens? You can't just be a man for the good stuff. You've got to be all in on this. If you're like me and you live in a shitty communist European country, you can literally go to jail for misgendering someone under hate crime laws. How can misgendering be a crime when you can't even stick to your own gender when a war breaks out? Yeah, you should have to fight, especially as the soldiers you're trying to wriggle out of fighting with are fighting for your right to tit about pretending what your gender is. Another trans man called Andriy was helped by reigned of to flee the war. They were then on their way to the crossing point at Przemysl, Poland, and Andrei had to revert to being a person he was not, a shadow of the person he was before, a painful gender dysphoria-inducing process. I even painted my nails violet and wore Mom's shirt to look more girly. Oh, how terrible that you had to suffer the gender dysphoria of you making the decision to be the gender you were born as. Not only was this your decision, you did it for a totally selfish reason, so you could avoid going to war. So, are you a man or what? After years of insisting that everyone call you a man, being a man suddenly became inconvenient to you, and you decided to identify as a man pretending to be a woman? When the war's over, do you go back to definitely being a man, and we go back to getting sent to jail if we suggest you might really be a woman? Who is this gender ideology poppy for? The lefty weirdos who buy into gender ideology don't have £8 to spend on it anyway, and if they did, they'd spend it on tofu and green hair dye. They won't want to donate to veterans anyways, they'll see them as colonial or having toxic masculinity or something. This poppy is just alienating true supporters. Gender ideology is controversial. Many women see it as allowing dangerous men into their sports, changing rooms and prisons, and many gay people see the mania for transitioning as erasing gay people. There's a huge question mark over the accelerating trend for drugging, sterilising and surgically maiming children because they're born in the wrong body. The poppy has always represented all military men and women and any of the 348 other genders. Poppies are red. The blood of every soldier is also red. Having a special poppy that singles out one group is discriminatory to everyone else. And it's true that gay people have historically faced discrimination in the military, but not as much discrimination as they'd have faced if our military hadn't existed. I'll always support veterans charities, but they need to leave the controversial gender ideologies for the Green Party conference. We don't need to have a gender rainbow on everything. And I've seen a lot of people saying that they're going to withdraw support for the British Legion. Look, they still do a lot of good work and support people who really deserve it. They just need a nudge to drop all the diversity and inclusion bollocks. So maybe write them a letter instead of cancelling your donations to them. Not that I'd ever tell you what to do with your money, except you should give your money to me. You should definitely give it to me by signing up to my Patreon and getting exclusive Patreon-only content. There's a stand-up show on there right now, and there's a video dropping soon about Kamala's weird campaign. I'm fighting the culture wars, man. It's still a kind of war, although ironically there are a lot of transgender people in it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe and share it with all your friends. Okay, bye.